Blessings, beautiful beings. Thank you so much for joining me for practice today. If you want to grab some blankets and a bolster if you have it. If you don't have those things, just any blanket. It doesn't have to be a yoga blanket or a pillow. We will use a pillow or a blanket. So even if you don't have like a blanket, like a towel, anything like that. So we will use that later. So if you have anything similar to a blanket, grab it. You can pause the video, go grab it, whatever. Or a pillow, like a flatter pillow, just anything like that. A bolster you don't necessarily need, but if you have a pillow, you can use that. And then a couple of yoga blocks that you might possibly want to grab. You don't have to. A good substitute for it is if you have any old textbooks lying around, you can use those to just bring the floor up to you. So just anything that'll give you some height. And again, that's just a prop in case you need it. If you don't have any of these things, no worries. That is perfectly okay. So we're going to start today's practice a little differently. If you've followed my other videos, then you'll know I usually start in a cross-legged seat. This time we're going to come into constructive rest pose to start. We're going to really get grounded. We've had our time change here. So to come into constructive rest pose, you're going to come on your back, feet flat on the ground, and your feet can be hips distance apart if you'd like. Your hands can be on the ground, palms facing up or down. Sometimes I like to put like my left hand on my heart space and my right hand on my belly. So again, do whatever feels right to you. Try and remove any dogs like Fritz here, who wants to come and sit on me. And when you get into this constructive rest pose, just breathe. Just really focusing on your inhales and your exhales. You can close your eyes if it feels good to you, or you can soften your gaze. We're going to take a few moments here just to get into the headspace for practice. Really coming into ourselves and giving us this time for self-care before we get into the holiday season and things get crazy. As if you're practicing this in real time. I know there's other stress that's not holiday season related, but it's really important that we take time out just to tend to ourselves. So thank you for taking this time to tend to yourselves and to care for yourselves. And Fritz is having a musical moment. The stuffed deer. He's practicing some self-care too. Really feel the earth underneath you and just focus on how it's supporting you. It's really important when things are crazy to ground and really come back to yourself. We can get in our head and spin things this way and that way, and it's really important to come back into ourselves and ground and feel the earth underneath us and know that we have that support from the universe. You can always come back here, even to this simple pose, if you ever feel like you need a minute to take a few moments to rest and to ground and to just reset. This is especially helpful if you feel anxious or stressed or angry or anything like that. If your hands are on your body anywhere, then you can focus on the rise and fall in your body underneath you as you breathe in and out. like. You can set an intention for today's practice, or you don't have to. Completely up to you. Take just a couple more breaths here. And then when you're ready, you can slowly open the eyes or focus your gaze if you have it unfocused. Go ahead and roll to your favorite side and then come into a little fetal position with your head underneath your your arm underneath your head. I don't know if you can get, I mean, I guess you could put your head underneath your arm, but that probably would be very comfortable. So we'll just take a couple breaths here in this little fetal position before we transition up. And when you're ready, you can slowly push yourself up into a little seat, and then we're going to transition to all fours. We're going to warm up the spine, do some spinal flexion. So if you have a towel or blanket, if your knees are cranky at all, then go ahead and put, or even if your knees aren't cranky, maybe they're just sensitive, you can go ahead and put down a blanket to kind of pad your knees. I'm on a hardwood floor, so the mat does a little bit, but not. Obviously, it's nicer on the blanket. But go ahead and come into a tabletop position. Hands underneath your shoulders, knees underneath your hips. On an inhale, lift the tail, lift the head, look forward. Cow pose. Exhale, round through the spine, tuck the tail, tuck the head, cat pose. Inhale, drop those lower ribs, lift the head, lift the tail. Cow pose, you should feel a nice stretch in the front body. And on an exhale, rounding through the spine, feeling a nice stretch in the back body, cat pose. Go ahead and do a few more, just on your own breath and in your own time. If one pose feels better to you than another, like if you find like a spot, you can stay in it for a couple breaths. We'll go ahead and do one more. One nice big inhale to a cow pose. Exhale, rounding through the spine. Out. After your last exhale, go ahead and come back to your tabletop position. You may want to remove your blanket. We're going to flow just a little bit. So go ahead and walk your hands, just one handprint in front of where you were. And then go ahead and tuck your toes under, look forward. On an inhale, lift the knees off the ground, and on an exhale, straighten through the legs, shift your hips up and back, push in through your hands, and we're going to come into our first downward facing dog practice. You can walk your dog if you'd like, bending one knee and straightening the other, just kind of back and forth. And when you're ready, go ahead and bring that to stillness, and we'll take just a few breaths. On your next inhale, go ahead and look forward, and we're going to make our way to the top of the mat. So you can jump, float, hop, step, skip. You can take baby steps, you can take big steps. Do whatever feels right in your body, and we're going to come into a forward fold. So once you get your feet up to the top of the mat, on an inhale, come up halfway. You should have a nice flat back. And then on an exhale, go ahead and just let it go. You can bend through your knees as generously as you like, especially on these first ones. You might need to warm up your hamstrings a little bit. This is also a good place where you can use blocks to bring the floor up to you, or those textbooks or whatever you have. And just breathe. Make sure you're not locking out your knees though, so you want a little bit of a bend in them. We'll take one more inhale here. And on an exhale, slowly roll all the way up to standing. Once you're here, you can loop your shoulders up and back. And then we want to stand up nice and straight, hands at our side, really grounding our feet into the earth, into this mountain pose. Again, we're taking this time, this self-care time, to really ground into the earth and come back into ourselves and to get out of our heads and to get out of just anything else that might be going on in life right now for you, depending on when you're practicing this. You can close your eyes if you'd like. Sometimes that helps me really feel the earth underneath my feet and to feel that energy coming up and to really feel connected with it. But you can leave your eyes open too, completely up to you. Okay, voice, stop. Okay, we'll take one more breath here. And then a nice big exhale. You can go ahead and sigh it out. Let something go. All right, on your next inhale, go ahead and lift your arms up. Now, I lifted my arms up to the side. If that doesn't feel good on your shoulder, you can also lift your arms up just directly in front of you. Whatever feels good to you. And your arms don't have to come super close to like where I'm wearing earmuffs. You can leave some space so you can drop your shoulders down. So you want to feel your shoulder blades nice and flush with your back body. And breathe. So we're coming into a volcano pose. So really think about a volcano just shooting energy up, that lava, magma, lava, I don't know. You know what it is, you can put it in the comments. It's been a while since I had like a geography class. All right. My camera's a little low. So on your next inhale, go ahead and take your right hand and just grab, I don't like saying grab, but go ahead and encircle your left wrist with your right hand. On an inhale, go ahead and reach up, and on an exhale, cross that midline. And you should feel a nice stretch in the left side. So breathe. Make sure your head isn't collapsing. On an inhale, go ahead and straighten back up and release the arms, coming back into that volcano pose. Hello, Sam. Sam is here too. On your next inhale, go ahead and take your left hand and grab onto your right wrist and lengthen. And on your exhale, go ahead and bend over or come across that midline towards the left. And you should feel a nice stretch in your right side body. Go ahead and breathe as you do this. Make sure you're still connected to the earth. Your next inhale, go ahead and return to center. And on an exhale, let it all go. Kind of feel in your body, see how you feel now. And you're going to have to move, Sam. You're going to have to move. You're going to have to move. I'm going to come back there. We'll see how this goes. I'm coming back to the front of my mat, so if you are not at the front of your mat, go ahead and come back to the front of your mat. Take a nice big inhale, and on an exhale, shift your hips back. Keep a little bit of a bend in your knees, And let's float back down to our forward fold. Inhale, come halfway up, flat back. Exhale, let it all go. Again, you can grab your blocks. If you need to bring the ground up to you at all, you should be feeling a nice stretch in your hamstrings. It shouldn't necessarily be your back. If your hands are not planted on the floor, go ahead and plant your hands firmly on the ground. You can bend through your knees. And then on your next inhale, we're going to step one foot back, maybe, and then the other. Move any dogs. And we're going to come into our first plank pose. Make any adjustments you need to so that your back is nice and straight. Make sure you're not dropping and collapsing. And also make sure you're not like coming up and rounding. So you want a nice flat back. Arms pressing into the ground. Shoulder blades going left to right. Abs engaged. Push through the heels of your feet. And breathe. If you're feeling a shake, that's okay. You're just burning off all that old stuff you don't need anymore. We're going to get rid of it and work through that old energy. On your next exhale, go ahead and lower all the way down. You can drop your knees first and then lower, or you can lower in one single board plank. Just make sure you're not belly flopping on the ground because it's not going to feel very good. Make sure your hands are underneath your shoulders. And on an inhale, lift up slightly with your head and your chest. We're coming into a little baby cobra, just warming up the top or our upper back. If you feel any crunchiness, lower down. You don't have to come up very high. Make sure to keep breathing. Look forward. And on an exhale, go ahead and lower back down to the floor. Your next inhale, you can tuck your toes under, and you can either push yourself in. Let's push ourselves up to all fours. Keep your toes tucked. Inhale, look forward and lift the knees, and then an exhale, straighten through the legs, shift the hips up and back, come into a downward facing dog. And breathe. Your next inhale, make sure that your left foot is nice and planted into the mat. Lift the right toes up. And on an exhale, bend through the knees, shift forward, look forward. Plant that right foot in between your hands. From here, step your left foot up a little bit and at kind of a 45-degree angle to your mat. And then with your torso, with your abs engaged, rise up in one straight piece. So we're going to come into a warrior one. So go ahead and bend through your right knee or whichever knee is in front. Make sure you're at a 90-degree, your knee isn't going over your ankle, so nice and that 90-degree angle. Push the knee out towards the pinky edge of your toe. So you should be able to see your big toe. Another tip is make sure you're not on a tightrope. You should be on 2 parallel train tracks with your feet. You'll want your hip points facing towards the short edge of your mat, and towards that front knee. Now you can keep your hands on your hips, or you can lift your hands up towards the sky to come into a full warrior one. And breathe. Take one more inhale. And on an exhale, lower the hands behind you, and then go ahead and interlace them behind your back. Now your palms don't have to come together. You can square them off. Inhale, look forward, and on an exhale, go ahead and shift your torso forward. You can bring your torso onto the top of your thigh. like to work further, you can lower down further, bringing your arms up towards the ceiling. But go to where it feels comfortable to you today. For some, it might be here. For others, it might be here. And still for others, it might be here. Listen to your body and just see what you feel like you want to do. On your next inhale, go ahead and rise up nice and big and strong. And on an exhale, release your arms from that bind. If you'd like, you can lift your arms back up towards the ceiling, coming back into that warrior one. And then on our next exhale, we're going to rain it all down. Pivot on that back foot so you're onto your toes. We're going to lower our hands back to the mat and then step our right foot back to meet our left foot, coming back into a plank. So we're back into a plank for just a few breaths. So breathe. One more breath. And on your next exhale, go ahead and lower all the way back down to the floor. Inhale, rise up, cobra. This time, if you'd like to push through your hands a little bit more and come up higher, you can. Just make sure, ew, ew, Fritz, go away. Make sure, Fritz, make sure that, oh my goodness. This is really hard to do in a cobra. Ew. Make sure that you're not wearing your shoulders as earmuffs. It helps if a dog is also not, oh, this is great. One more breath here, and then go ahead and lower back down to the floor. All right, on your next inhale, let's go ahead and tuck our toes. Now you can either push back to all fours to come into your downward facing dog, or on an inhale, you can push through the palms, really power up, coming through that plank pose, and then on your exhale, shifting back into that downward facing dog. Yogi's choice. Whatever you feel like today. And breathe. That you have to do. All right, make sure your right foot is really planted into the mat, into the ground. On your next inhale, let's lift our left leg up. And on an exhale, bend through the knee, shift forward, look forward, and step that left foot in between your hands, coming into that low lunge. Step your right foot up a little bit on that kind of 45-degree angle. And on an inhale, we are going to rise up, coming into that warrior one pose. Make any adjustments you need to. And then once you feel stable, if you'd like, you can lift your arms up towards the ceiling and breathe. Just pulling up strength, embodying that warrior. You can handle anything. And exhale, go ahead and lower your arms down. We are going to interlace the fingers behind us again, but this time, put the thumb on top. That feels weird. So, the opposite of what you did before. It's going to feel funny, and that's okay. Sometimes we have to get used to discomfort when things are new or challenging, and that's okay. Take another inhale, lift the chest, and on an exhale, you can bring your torso forward, either onto your thigh, or if you'd like to go further, you can, lifting your hands up towards the ceiling and breathing. Take one more breath here. And on an exhale, go ahead and rise up out of that forward fold. And on an exhale, let it go. If you'd like, you can lift your arms back up to the ceiling. For one more warrior one. And on an exhale, let's go ahead and pivot on our back foot, lower the hands towards the mat, and then we're going to step our left foot back to meet our right foot, coming back into our favorite plank pose. Breathe. Your next exhale, go ahead and lower all the way back down to the mat. You can untuck your toes. Inhale, push up and forward through that cobra, only going to where it feels good in your body. So it may be lower, and that's okay. Make sure to keep breathing. On your next exhale, go ahead and lower back down towards the mat. Inhale, tuck your toes, and you can either push back to all fours, or on your next exhale, push yourself up into a plank again. Last plank of the day, if you're here. We'll inhale, and then on an exhale, shift your hips up, back, and down. Downward dog. And breathe. Right, on your next inhale, make sure your left foot is firmly planted into the mat. Lift the right toes up. And on an exhale, bend through the knees, shift forward, look forward, and step that right foot in between your hands. Step your left foot up a little bit, and then on an inhale, come forward. Now we're not going to go into, or come up, we're not going to come into a warrior one. Instead this time, we're going to come into a warrior two. So your foot is still going to be at a 45-degree angle. You still want your two separate parallel train tracks. Your front knee is going to be bent at a 90-degree angle. Make sure that knee is pressing out towards your pinky toe and that you can see your big toe. And then we're going to turn our hips so that way they are facing the long end of our mat this time and not facing the short end. And breathe. Now you can keep your hands on your hips. You can bring your hands into your, like a namaste, or you can shoot your hands out to either side. Pinky side back. So imagine you're pinching a pencil in between your shoulder blades. Make sure your rear end isn't like pushing out. You want to feel that connection in your core. So kind of tuck your pelvis, but like don't tuck it, but you know, just tuck it a little bit. You'll feel that connection when you get it. And then make sure you're not drifting too far forward or back. You want to be nice and steady in the middle, like you have someone on either side of you and they're pulling your arms out of their sockets. That's a terrible visual, but that's, you want to be balanced in between, like a tug of war. If you'd like, you can look over your front right hand and breathe. Make sure your shoulders are down, not coming up, creeping up. And when you're ready, lower the arms. You can straighten through the leg and then bring that foot in, and you can kind of heel toe your feet together. We'll do a little dance there. We're going to come back into that mountain pose in the middle of our mat. So breathe. Maybe flick it off. You can move your hands and just kind of, I like to think of it as like flicking, like you're in a public restroom and there's no towels and the air dryer doesn't work and you're like trying to dry your hands and you're like, ah. You can do that. And just imagine it's any bad energy or anything you're holding on to and you're just flicking it off. You're getting it away from you. Just, ugh, go away. And breathe. You can close down your eyes, really feel your feet grounding, and kind of compare to the start of the class how you feel now versus how you felt at the standing in the same pose. Your feet don't have to be together, they can be hip distance apart too. Take a couple more breaths here. All right, and then if you're ready, we have to do our warrior two on the other side. So we're going to take our left foot and let's step it towards the short edge of our mat. So I'm going to step it towards my back edge of the mat. And then I'm going to just adjust my legs however I need to. So I stepped my right leg back a little bit. My toes are in at a 45-degree angle. I've got a nice 90-degree bend in my front leg. Knee is pushing towards the pinky side of my toe. I can see my big toe. I'm going to come into the middle here. Again, your hands can be on your hips. They can be at your chest. Or you can reach them out and imagine someone is pulling your arms out of socket on either side. And you're just trying to stay in the middle. Make sure to tuck your pelvis nice and straight. Shoulder blades up, back, and down. You can look over that left fingertip out at the horizon. Breathe. One more breath here. And on an exhale, go ahead and lower your arms down to your side. Now go ahead and turn your left toes in a little bit, and we'll turn our right toes out. You may need to adjust your feet at all, but go ahead and have your feet step out pretty wide. So not like super wide, but like just wide enough. Sorry, fixing my pants. Let me step back a little bit too. Okay. There's a candle back there, making sure my hair's not going to go in the candle and then it all bursts into flames and everybody sees that, and that's just lovely. So we're coming into kind of like this power pose. So adjust your feet to where it feels good to you. Your feet can be pointed out a little bit. So not like turned clear out, but like just a little bit. Or whatever feels good to you. Inhale, stand up nice and straight and tall through the chest. You're strong, you're powerful. And then on an exhale, keep your hands, move your hands down the outside of your legs as we hinge forward. We're going to come into a wide-legged forward fold. So if your hands do not touch the mat, this is another place where you can bring a block and you can bring the floor up to you. If you have a Fritz, you can use a Fritz. Or if it's in your practice, you can go lower and you can bring your hands towards the inside of your arches and then just lower and drop your head down. Make sure to keep breathing. It should feel really good on your hamstrings and your back. All right, on your next inhale, lift up. Really hold through really feel that through your core. Just see if you can come up in like a flat line. And now we will heel toe our feet together, coming back into that mountain pose. So you can move your shoulders up, back, and down. You can make any adjustments to your clothes you need to. Fix your hair, get all the wiggles out. And when you're ready, come to stillness. Really ground into the earth with your feet. Feel into your body and feel that flush of energy as it all runs back through you. And just breathe. Take one more inhale. And on an exhale, go ahead and hinge at the hips. We're going to bend forward, coming into that forward fold. We'll take just a couple breaths here. you're ready, go ahead and bend at the knees more. Lift your heels off the ground, coming down in kind of like a squat. And then you can bring your fingertips behind you and then find your feet. Back down on the ground. No planks needed. All right, so we're going to do something a little different, and this is where you're going to need your blanket. The rest of class is going to be really nice and gentle, so you won't need any other props than a blanket. If you want a bolster, you can have a bolster. If not, that's okay too. So we are going to go into a pose called legs up the wall. If you don't have a wall, that's okay. You can practice with like a chair or just like your couch, your bed, anything like that. Or if you don't have any of those things accessible to you, just come and lie flat in Shavasana. After we do legs up a wall, we are going to come into Shavasana for just a little bit to close out. So we are getting to the end of it. Good job. All the hard stuff is out of the way. No more planks, no more ab work, no more all of that. But this is where, and it's going to have to it's going to depend on your body. I'm not going to bring my mat over to my wall here. You can, depending especially on your surface that you're using. So if it's carpeted, you're probably fine. You can leave your mat behind. Otherwise, you might want some padding just to feel comfortable, and you might want some padding depending on where you're practicing for under your head. There's kind of like a pillow. So you're going to have to kind of judge the space that you have and the things you have around you and what feels good in your body. So I'll give you direction on how to do this. But I'm going to take my blanket, I've kind of just folded it so it's a little bit thicker, and I'm going to put that at the base of the wall. And then I am going to come over to the wall, and you can come to your side. This is kind of the easiest way to do it, is you can come down to your side and then get your booty as close to the wall as you can. And then you can lift one leg up the wall, and then the other leg, and kind of roll yourself up the wall, but you want to get your hips and your sacrum positioned on the blanket. I wish this was from the side so you could see, but my hips are on the blanket. And then you can just let your feet go up the wall. You can keep them engaged if you want, or you can just kind of relax them. You can bring your arms out to the side, resting your head and neck. And we'll just take a few breaths here. We're going to spend some time here. This is really great if you've been sitting all day, or even if you've been standing all day. It kind of reverses that blood flow in your feet. And there's lots of really good benefits to doing this. So we're going to take some time here. You can close down your eyes and you can breathe. If your arms don't feel comfortable out the side, you can just bring them anywhere on your body, onto your belly, your heart in your belly, just whatever feels good to you. And really, while we're spending a few moments here, just take time to breathe. Go inward. Please don't skip this pose, or even the last one. You've already carved out the time to be here and to do the practice, so just stick with it. I know it's not as fast moving and go, 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 and tone and, strengthen and push. It's more passive, but you need this in addition to that push. If we push all the time, we're going to get burned out, we're going to get tired, we're going to get exhausted. And when you're tired and exhausted and burnt out, you can't really care for anybody else. You can't show up for others the way that you probably actually want to. You want to be there for others because you are caring, because you have compassion, you have love. But when you're not showing those same things to yourself, it really takes away from your ability to show that to others. I know that when I don't have time for my self-care practices and my rituals, I get to be a real grump. And nobody likes to be around me. So these are really important to keep your own personal, all a part of your personal hygiene, because it really is. It's you not doing what you want to do, and what feels good to you doesn't serve others. You killing yourself for other people and being a martyr doesn't help anybody else. It doesn't serve anybody else. Alright, I will quiet down here and let you guys take a few moments to just go inside and have some introspection time. And I'll let you know when it's time to move into Shavasana. So for now, just breathe, focus on your breath. If you would like to stay in the legs of the wall for the rest of the practice, you're more than welcome to. But if you would like to transition into our final resting pose, our Shavasana, you can bend your knees, placing your feet at the wall. And kind of the easiest way to do this is just go ahead and roll over to your favorite side. And then you can push yourself up. Bring your head and neck up last. And if you need to stay on your side for a minute in a fetal position, feel free to. Sometimes if you sit up too fast, you can get like a rush of blood, and it's like, woo! All right, and then when you are ready, to play. Hey, it's quiet time, boys. Hey, it is quiet time. Go sit down. It's quiet time. Go lay down. Signal. Go on. If you are ready, you can slowly lie back on your mat, spread your feet, or spread your legs and your arms out, take up space on your mat, come off of your mat. And we're going to come into our final resting posture, Shavasana, corpse pose. Fritz is kind of getting into it. We'll see if Sam will. And if it feels comfortable to you after your position there, you can close down the eyes. If you need any props to feel comfortable in Shavasana, feel free to grab those. You can grab a blanket to cover up with, a bolster to put under your thighs. And then from here, just breathe. And I'll give everyone a few moments to get into that posture. I'm going to get into that posture. Jaws. Stop. Stop. Go lay down. I'm going to use the mirror as a bolster for my back. And then again, just focus on your breath. Thank yourself for coming and practicing today and giving yourself time and attention and love and caring and the space that you need so that you can be your best and highest self. I'm going to go quiet here for just a minute and let you guys rest here. So for anyone that hasn't practiced with me before, you can stay in Shavasana, but I always pull an oracle card for every practice. And the one I pulled today was Chameleon Spirit. And the message is, act as if. I actually pulled it upside down, so there's a different message than versus if I pulled it right side up. So the message that this little guy is, or the universe has for us today for this practice, is that being sensitive and having empathy for others can become a heavy burden if you don't practice self-care. Could it be you're feeling stressed because you've tuned into challenging emotions that aren't even yours? Chameleon Spirit does not want you to adapt to these conditions by withdrawing or distracting yourself, hoping the feelings will just go away, or attempting to rescue another who may be having a pity party. You can be swallowed up trying to manage it all. It is time to figure out where you end and the rest of the world begins. Not all conditions are yours to match. You need to distinguish your own color from the rest of the world right now and take time out to soothe your sensitive soul. Choose some activities that will restore your sense of being grounded and avoid people who revel in drama. Take a break from social media too. Self-care and a timeout is the answer to this temporary dilemma. So we already practiced some self-care today, and I know it's really hard to focus on yourself like that card that was saying. In my human design, I have an open emotional center, meaning that I take on others' emotions around me. So I do sometimes have to step back and ask myself, is what I'm feeling right now really my emotions, or am I feeling what somebody else is feeling? And then kind of go from there and do different practices, whether that be yoga or dancing around my living room or shaking or doing tapping or anything like that. Um, and with these holiday seasons coming up and lots of different mixed emotions with family and stress and things like that, it can be really easy to take on others' stuff. If you'd like to stay in Shavasana, stay as long as it feels comfortable to you in your body. And if you're ready to go, then go ahead and slowly start to deepen your breath. Wiggle your fingers and toes, just bringing some movement back into them. When you're ready, you can place your feet flat on the mat. And then go ahead and roll to one side. Come back into that fetal position that we started practicing. And stay there for just a couple of breaths. Don't rush to get up just yet. When you're ready, go ahead and push yourself up to a comfortable seat, bringing your head and neck up last. If you're ready, we'll go ahead and bring our hands to heart center. Thank you so much for spending your time and your energy and your practice with me today and with Sam and with Fritz. Take good care of yourself this holiday season. Make sure to make time for yourself and your self-care. And if you know anyone that would enjoy this channel or these videos, please share them with them. I appreciate all the support. So thank you so much. Have a good rest of your week. And I'll see you guys again next week. Namaste.